What's up? This is Sean Nelson. Please check out my movie Stakeland, and you're listening to Sci-Fi Talk.
Spike TV's cool series, The Deadliest Warrior, has a very interesting season finale this week with vampires versus zombies. At the recent San Diego Comic-Con, I talked to two experts who make their case for each side. Up first for the vampires is Steve Niles, writer of the very cool graphic novel 30 Days of Night. Love your work.
Thank you.
I'm not going to ask you who you're going to pick, obviously with your skill set, who else, but make a good case for the vampire. What kind of a killing machine he is compared to...
They have a brain, so they can actually think and do things. I mean, that's the thing, within the parameters of the movie, within the TV show, I think it worked great just with them hands and teeth. I think we don't know if we won. That's the thing. We'll find out when it airs. We don't know. But I feel like, how can they not? I mean, the keys are that they get organized fast and kill them. Just kill off because they're not affected by the virus. So the only threat is that the zombies threaten the food supply. And that's really what it's about. So it's more of a race against time with the vampires. So I feel like that's the biggest hurdle is actually their personalities. If they can win this thing easily.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think they stand a chance because vampires can think. As far as one thing I have to say is I love your take on vampires. None of this shiny stuff, none of that. They're brutal. They're just brutal vampires.
They're monsters. They're monsters. They drink blood to stay alive. I don't know how that ever became a romantic notion, and just the idea that that's all they look at, for us, I think just makes them all the more horrifying, because they're us, but now they don't register that anymore. They're their own, so I love vampires. Great characters to play with.
As far as the 30 Days of Night universe, is there anything coming up?
Yeah, we're going monthly again. IDW's announcing it this time. We're doing a Sparkles for Blood drive at IDW, all Comic-Con, where people can bring their Twilight books and turn them in and receive 30 Days of Night. It's a public service, we're like, we can all end this horror working together, but we're going to do that monthly, and I'm starting out with Sam Keith, and a bunch of books going to be supporting that. So actually a lot of new stuff from IDW. And then the really funny thing is in September, I just got done filming a zombie movie for the Chiller Network called Remains. And that's going to be, I'm going to be doing a signing for that tomorrow night, I think. So, yeah, I was glad that didn't come up in the panel.
You went to the dark side a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, in that sense, anyway.
Yeah.
But as far as cinematically for the 30 Days of Night franchise, I know there was a direct-to-DVD sequel. Anything else coming up?
I haven't heard a word. That's kind of Sony's deal, and if they decide they want to do something with it, there's plenty of material, but honestly, they just don't seem that interested. Because nobody's making money off vampires, so...
Oh, I think somebody is.
Somebody is, not Sony. I know. Well, that's their mistake.
Well, great to talk to you. Good luck. Always love reading and seeing your stuff.
Okay, thank you so much.
All right, thank you. All right, and let's check out the zombie side. And the Zombie Survival Guide is exactly what you'll need in the event of the eventual zombie apocalypse. Max Brooks is the writer and creator of the series. Now, Steve Niles made a really good case for the vampires, but, you're the guy for zombies. He said they're dumb. Come to their defense here.
Right, they are dumb. Just like Ebola is dumb, just like AIDS is dumb, just like the Spanish influenza and the Black Death and swine flu, all dumb. How'd that work out? I think, honestly, victory or defeat depends on the vampires. I think if they organize, if they set aside their differences, and if they're proactive, if they go, like any disease, the trick to taking out any disease is going after the source quickly, as fast as you possibly can, with all the resources at your disposal. So if the vampires do that, there's no competition. They'll win. If they dawdle, if they delay, if they degenerate into hyper-partisan bickering, then I think we're in trouble. Because I think what you have to remember is vampires have physical assets, their strength, their speed. But when it comes to their hearts and their minds, they're still human beings. They're no wiser, they're no braver, they're no smarter. They haven't risen above any of the sort of social, emotional weaknesses that make us human. So if those weaknesses get in the way, it doesn't matter how fast and strong they are.
Now, where do you land on the zombies as far as their speed? Are they slow-moving or are they quick?
I think it depends on how it's presented. I think that, say, the fast zombies in the remake of Dawn of the Dead, unbelievable, terrifying. And they weren't really zombies, but in the 28 days, weeks, months, millennial later movies, again, they're not zombies, but that was terrifying. I think how it's presented. The Michael Jackson Thriller video, not so scary. Sorry.
So you think it's more of a kind of with the zombies would be more of a numbers advantage than it would like a physical?
Well, the funny thing is, with all zombie movies, it's not about their advantages; it's about the human disadvantages. How many George Romero movies have we seen where you're just yelling at the screen saying, "Come on, you know how to beat them, you can do it," and they won't do it. And I think that what excites me about zombies and zombie stories is they expose our weaknesses. I mean, and look at the problems that we're facing today. There's nothing out there we can't handle as humans. There's not an asteroid coming. There's no alien invasion. It's all problems that are solvable. Why aren't we solving them?
Yeah.
So I think that's really what it comes down to. It's not the zombies' advantages. It's our disadvantages.
Another thing about the worlds where the zombies have taken over, it's interesting how, especially like series like The Walking Dead, how humanity is portrayed trying to survive the zombie apocalypse and things like that.
Well, I mean, that's the thing is all other zombie stories that I've encountered are really about sort of small bands of people trying to survive. I mean, it's almost like a bunch of Katrina survivors trying to get out of the city or surviving on a rooftop. What I try to do in World War Z, or if you're Canadian, World War Z, was try to present an actual war with an intact government trying to reorganize itself and trying to reorganize its army and trying to feed its army and trying to feed its refugees and trying to keep law and order. I mean, it's so complicated, but these are the kind of issues that I'm interested in.
What do you have coming up for you?
I have a graphic novel coming out in a few months about the First World War, and it's a true story. I've been working on it for about 13 years, off and on in different formats. So there's that. There's also, ironically, right before I did this episode, I had written a zombie versus vampire short story called The Extinction Parade. And it was on Daily Beast for a little while, and I think it's going to be a comic book, a limited comic book series. So we're working on that right now.
Right. Can you tell us what's going on right now with the World War Z movie? I know you said you don't have a lot of information, but...
Yeah, no, go on. FearNet, apparently. They know more than I can tell you that I'm not really involved because it's not my movie. I wrote the book that it's based on, and I haven't read the script. And at this point, there is no point because it's in production. There's no point in reading a script of a movie that's in production because it's going to go through so many changes. What I would read on the page is not what I'm going to see on the screen. They've invited me to the set, God bless them, and I'd love to see it, and I'd love to see what they're doing. But I don't want to get too involved because I'm a zombie writer, but I'm also a zombie fan. So I want to be excited. I want to go to the premiere, and I want to see a movie that's edited with special effects, bells and whistles, and sort of get the kind of thrill that I got as a kid watching George Romero movies.
Yeah, there's a misconception that when somebody buys a book and turns it into a movie, that the writer's brought on, the author's brought on, and all that. That just doesn't happen these days.
No, and I think there's also a misconception that somehow the writer is deeply offended all the time. They killed my baby. And the truth is, no, as far as I know, maybe I'm wrong, there's nothing in Paramount's contract with me that says they can rewrite my book. My book is my book. It's done. So, and I've said to them, look, I want you to make the best zombie movie you can make. And if that means straying from the book in certain places, go for it. But make a great zombie movie. And, given the team that they have, I think they're off to an amazing start.
Yeah, and the book is not going to vaporize automatically on the bookshelves either. It's still going to be there.
No, my book is still going to be there. So I think there was a movie called Blazing Saddles once where the sheriff says, my work here is done. My work here is done. It's up to them now.
Coming back to the source here for Deadliest Warrior, Vampires versus Zombies, do you have any favorite of the tests that you guys were doing during the filming?
Yeah, I think the Ring of Undeath. I don't know if they still call it that. That's what we called it on the set, where all the zombies were surrounding this one guy. And I don't know if they left it in, but I thought what was really critical was he was whipping some ass, but he admitted he got scared. He admitted it kind of creeped him out to see this ring closing on him, which brings up a really good point, is vampires can fear, zombies can't. Vampires can doubt, zombies can't. Vampires can panic, they can tire. There's all these foibles that they have. a zombie is a walking virus. So I thought the ring of death or undeath really sort of distilled what we're trying to do here.
Very cool.
If a zombie bit a vampire, would he be a zombie vampire?
In this episode, what we did was we struck a bargain where we sort of nullified each other's viruses. There was a lot of these things we had to do. You know, it was the kind of thing where we really left no stone unturned. We debated every possible scenario. Like Team Vampire would say, well, we could just make more vampires. And then we would come back and say, yeah, but they'd be new vampires. They wouldn't even know about their powers. They'd be like National Guard, versus the militia. Now, I shouldn't even say National Guard. I should say these would be like 2-week-old draftees. At least the Guard are professionals. It was that sort of thing. We talked about, would vampires argue with each other? Would there be older vampires versus younger? Would there be European vampires versus American? We talked about zombies as far as strength. Would fresher zombies be stronger as opposed to zombies that have been more rotted?
And they reproduce quicker.
And
you're a zombie.
Well, the real kicker that we threw in, what Team Zombie threw in was saying, look, you're thinking vampires versus zombies. It's not. It's vampires trying to save their human food source from the zombie plague.
Kind of a Daybreakers twist.
Well, right. No, which I thought was a great movie. But the idea is essentially it's a saber-toothed cat versus Ebola. And the saber-toothed cat is trying to save the herd of buffalo before the virus rips through that herd. Because what are they going to feed on? So the clock is ticking for the vampires. You know, they can't sort of just withdraw into their vampire fort.
Thank you very much. He mentioned Blazing Saddles. His father is Mel Brooks and his mother is Anne Bancroft. I love Blazing Saddles. Obviously, talent does not fall too far from the tree or the apple, as they say. This is Tony Tillotto.